Hello, everyone. Hello, Unlock community, and welcome to our Tuesday live stream. I am Jessie Lang, if you do not know me by now, and I am here every Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern to bring you all sorts of amazing real estate knowledge. So I teach people how to buy 1 to 3 rental properties per month on autopilot. And if that is something that you're interested in, then you are absolutely going to love this topic. Today, we are going super deep into knowing your real estate market. When you hear, people say, "Oh, you got to know your market. You got to know your market." What is your market? What do you need to know, and how do you learn it? And then once you have all these things, what sort of benefit is that going to give you as an investor? So that's what we're talking about today. Let me know, you guys, where are you watching from? I know we have some YouTube, some Instagram, some Facebook groups. So let me know, where is your market, because I can try to incorporate that as we go. And then I also want to announce that we have a very special live stream or a workshop right after this, where I am going to break down the exact steps. If I had to start over from day one, what would I do to build my rental portfolio from scratch? What would I do to buy my very first rental? So if you guys would like access to that workshop, let us know in the comments, and Lizzie will send you over the link. It's today at 4 o'clock Eastern. All righty. So let's hop into it. Keisha's here from Facebook. Love to see it. Okay, let me share my screen. All right, you guys can see this? Okay, we got the workshop in the comments. So if y'all want to join, would love to have you there. So knowing your real estate market as an investor, again, what is it? How do you get it? And what's it going to do for you? So most important is, what's it going to do for you? What does knowing your market actually look like, right? This is something that I have perfected over the last 5-7 years investing here in Columbus, Ohio. And when a deal comes across my inbox, I can tell you immediately if that deal is worth my time. Literally within the time it takes me to read the email, I can tell you if it's a good deal, which allows me to make offers quickly, right? I'm confident in my knowledge, and I can make an offer, really underwrite a deal in about 15 minutes. And then I also know any red flags. So I'm not going to take any crap from wholesalers, from lenders, title companies, because I know my market well, and I know what red flags to look out for. So what is a market? If we're really kind of thinking on like a macro level, that's going to be more your city, maybe like the region overall. So you may hear me say like Central Ohio. That is Columbus, plus what I like to call the submarket. So Dayton, Newark, Marysville, all the other kind of smaller tier cities that surround really an hour radius of Columbus. And you're going to see that same thing on any major metro. So when I'm talking about, a macro, I'm looking at the region and then the city. And then I'm looking at, national or economic trends, interest rates, overall housing supply. But what I really, really care about here is the micro level. And this is what I've gotten really good at myself. And so we're talking about specific market down to a neighborhood, down to a set of streets. And so we actually know, in my portfolio, we have about 75 units now, and I have 12 different pairs of houses that are on the same street. So I have 2 on 16th, 2 on 19th, 2 on Elaine, 2, whatever it is. So I am able to, on a very, very micro level, know my numbers very quickly because I am in those markets, right? So that's what I'm talking about when I say like a micro level, is potentially that narrow focus. So what do you need to know? You need to know the market dynamics. So these are like supply, demand, interest rates, economic conditions. It's really important. Is a lot, like, I think the first one that people think about is upcoming developments. So of course we have Intel coming to Central Ohio. shifted the entire market almost overnight. And so because we knew that that development was coming, people can price their properties accordingly, and I can make offers accordingly. That works on a much smaller level too. Of course, Intel's a huge deal, but is there a neighborhood park that's getting a facelift that could be desirable for someone to want to, live near? We have quite a few houses in the Linden neighborhood in Ohio, and the city just did a $25 million development. And so I knew that is close, like the closer you were to the park, once that development was announced, that the more desirable that property would be, right? So I know it even like on a citywide, but then all the way down to a neighborhood basis of what's coming. A really big one, and we'll go into a little bit more depth, is your housing stock. So characteristics of a neighborhood, when were things built, what building materials, and those are super important because those are going to be necessary to run your comps, to run your comparable sales. And then investment strategy. So are you in a flip neighborhood? Are you in a more rental grade neighborhood? Are you in an Airbnb? So we have Hocking Hills or Indian Lake or all these different areas like kind of surrounding Columbus that while you very well could do a flip there or something, it's really hot for Airbnb. So whatever strategy you have, you need to know that on kind of like a macro and a micro level. Local demographics, of course, is the population growing? Growing population is going to give you that confidence when you're making offers. Age distribution, of course, we want to watch out to do anything against fair housing. So this is not saying you do or don't buy based on age, but it is important to know, like, is this more of a college town or is this like a retiree community? And then income levels is, same things. You need to know what types of jobs are people in this neighborhood. What kind of jobs do they have? Is it mostly retail, making $15, maybe $20 an hour, kind of more blue collar? Is it white collar? Because this is going to determine the affordability and what those, we look for 3 times our rent as income. So if I know that the average income in a neighborhood is $5,000 a month, I can kind of work backwards and see what's the most that I could charge for rent and still hit that requirement. So it's really important to kind of know, like, where do your potential residents work? Where do your potential buyers work? And how much money are they making doing that? And then I told you we would get into housing stock more. This is actually one of my favorites. And it's because all these things are so important for running comparable sales. And comparable sales are the very most common valuation type that an appraiser will use. So you purchase the property in cash or hard money, you're going to get a broker price opinion or potentially even a full appraisal upfront. They're going to tell you what is it worth today. But then you also know that once you get it renovated, rented, and you go to get it refinanced, you're going to have a appraisal there as well. So you have to know, what is this property going to be worth once it's fixed up, and knowing like the age of the house, if there is a basement, a garage. Basement and garage are really 2 of the biggest indicators of comps. So, it's going to be hard to comp a house with or without a garage, with or without a basement. Not impossible by any means. You just make adjustments. And we have a whole video on, we had an appraiser on. So if you guys want to see that appraiser video, comment appraiser and Lizzie will post it. And so these factors are really, really important for determining what the property will be worth. And so if I know my market well, I know that almost everything here has a garage, but the subject that I'm looking at, it doesn't have a garage. What does that mean? That means that I'm going to need to make an adjustment down in the value of my property. Now, how much adjustment do I make? There's not a one size fits all. You have to look at the numbers. You have to look at the market. And so that's why this is so important. Same with building materials. A brick property is always, I say always, in my neighborhood where I know my market, a brick property is always going to be worth more than aluminum or vinyl siding. Okay. So I just know these things, and I know like the age of the house. in 1940 in our market, we stopped using asbestos in building materials. We stopped using knob and tube as electric. And so it's really, I know if something's after 1940, it unlikely has some of these like kind of bigger ticket items that you could see in a house built in 1910. I know that because I know my market. You need to know the inventory and trends, inventory levels. If you have, is basically supply and demand. If you have too much supply and not enough demand, you will not be able to charge top dollar rents. Average sales price. You may be in a market where it doesn't make sense to purchase a rental property because rents just don't support that mortgage. And so you need to know kind of what are the average sales price? What are the average rent price? Time on market is really important when you are making offers, because if you know that your market average days on market, say, is 30 days and a property has been listed for 60 days or 90 days, that's going to give you a little bit of leverage when you go to make that offer, because you know that this property has been sitting longer than average, which, is not a foolproof, but does give some indication to the seller's motivation. So knowing how long something's on market is going to give you a good idea of, what you can offer. And then I kind of touched on rental rates already, but basically knowing what something can rent for and will that amount support what the mortgage will be once you refi out of your investment property. Occupancy levels, are there jobs coming into the neighborhood creating demand? Is it really stable? There's some markets where no one moves, right? I know a lot of our investor buddies investing in Dayton, that will have the same renter for 10 to 15 years, and people, they find a house, they go to their job every day, they're happy. And of course, this is a generalization, but it's knowing your market. You have other, kind of neighborhoods like a college area where you're going to have turnover every single year in the summer, because that's how it works. Rental yields, how far can your money take you? And then neighborhood structures and amenities and infrastructure. That's a mouthful. Just what schools are there? You may have a dividing line in your neighborhood where the school zone switches and the price switches based on the school zone. The taxes could change based on the school zone. And so you really need to know in your market, like, where are those defining barriers or boundaries where taxes and prices could shift in a matter of 3-4 blocks, right? And you want to make sure that you're not running comps across that, we call the line. There's a couple different ones in Columbus that are pretty prominent. If you're investing here, that you would know. So Parsons Avenue for us is a north-south boundary where one side is German Village. We have a Schiller Park. It's, a premier park of Columbus. We have historic streets. The other side is Children's Hospital. It's great, but it's more like the developing side. So I will see newer investors try to comp across Parsons, and you just absolutely cannot do that. Different, same school zone, but completely different neighborhoods. And so you have to know that. Parks, rec, transportation, you may be in a market where, if you have public transportation, the closer you are to a station, the more valuable the real estate becomes. I don't know that about your market, but it's important that you do. So that's like kind of a real down and dirty list of like what you need to know. And so where can you learn this? First is just market research online, databases. There's tons of different sources with, honestly, like a quick Google search will get you there. Network with local professionals. We'll go into each of these, and then attend industry events. I do see some questions in the comments, so let me hop some of these on. So what's the best way to know or find what's developing in your area? That's a great question. So there's a website that I really like. It's called Crane Watch. Lizzie, if you can throw that in the comments for everyone. Crane Watch. It's really for like major metros, and it is a visual breakdown on a map. It shows you all the different kinds of projects that are coming in, like projected dates. Of course, nothing is ever finished on time, but projected open dates, and then really gives you a good idea of kind of what's coming. So Lizzie posted that for y'all. Appreciate that. And then Laura asked, so how do you learn about the lines if you're an out-of-state investor or don't live in the area? Such a great question. And that is going to kind of come into like the how can you learn it? So let me hop into that. But the secret here is to network with local professionals. Get into Facebook groups, get into rooms where other people understand exactly what those boundaries are in your market. So just market research. There's online, like I said, Zillow, Redfin, Trulia. Those are kind of all the basics. But then there's a ton of other like real estate databases. If you guys don't use PropStream, it is kind of a data aggregate and provides a lot of like analysis based on a neighborhood. Market reports. Just if you are kind of like a data nerd, you could go deep, deep, deep down in the rabbit hole. But I will stop you and say that you don't have to do all that. What you should definitely do, though, is network and talk to other people. Your agents are going to be a huge resource for knowing where the boundaries lie, for knowing different characteristics of different neighborhoods, knowing, what's the income level and what kind of jobs would someone in a specific neighborhood have. Your appraiser is going to be able to help with anything like property value related. And I say your appraiser, you're assigned an appraiser from your lender, so it's totally random. But through your networking, you probably have met or could meet an appraiser who would be happy to answer your questions. Investors and developers, I get asked questions multiple times a day. Hey, do you think this is a solid deal? This is something that we do for our students all the time, is they come to me with questions about a market. Hey, Jessie, like I am looking at these comps, but they seem a little off. What am I missing? And so I will look at all those factors that we just talked about and see, if there's something that they're missing that would affect the value in any way. So you have to talk to other people. If you are scared to talk to other people and you want to be a real estate investor, I highly encourage that you just freaking get over it. Like you got to practice, right? Start small, ask someone for, a 15-minute phone call or ask them some questions in a Facebook group. If you guys want practice asking questions, ask me a million questions. I'm happy to answer anything that you have. And so if you're nervous to kind of start this process, I encourage you to take baby steps to get there, because my entire business has been built with the help of my community, just period, flat out. I would not be able to have half the knowledge that I have today, knowing my market, without the people that I ask daily questions to. And then attend industry events, conferences, webinars, workshops. Like I said, I am holding a workshop at 3:00 today at 4:00 today for those of you who are trying to get their very first rental property. So Lizzie has posted that link. Would love to see you there. But these kind of workshops and webinars, these are more like, instead of the informal face-to-face, this is like more formalized learning, which also has a huge value. And then last but not least, I don't have a slide for it, but how do you know your market, you guys? A lot of this is trial and error. And I know that doesn't sound super exciting, but every single deal that you do, every single offer you make, every single text message that you send, down to that specific, there's going to be something you can learn from it. There's going to be something that you can take away. And so I just want you to, if you take one thing out of this, as far as knowing your market, is get out there and start learning. It is the only way to do it. So that is it. That is knowing your market. We're short and sweet today. If you guys have any topics that you want to see from us, please let myself or let Lizzie know. And I love doing these, so would love to cover any topics you want. If you are trying to get your very first rental property, we have a workshop today at 4:00, and I would absolutely love to see you there. I am going to start. If my portfolio was wiped clean today, what would I do to get my first rental property today? We're going to build in a lot of this market knowledge stuff. So hope to see you there, and I will see y'all next Tuesday.